and its clients, or sometimes emails exchanged between employees working at the law firm. And the data also had images and PDFs and documents that are related to the offshore companies. And it also had the Mossack Fonseca's internal database and etc. The picture you see here was taken when journalists working on this project gathered in Munich, Germany last year. And there we discussed about the data and project and each country's main findings. Screenshot of the database search program here. So basically it's like Google. You can see that here that I searched for Korea, and it shows every file that contained the word Korea. And I got more than 16,000 search results when I searched for Korea, and that's how I started. I went through every single file to see what was in there. So, and through this way, I found 195 Koreans that have Korean addresses in the data, and they appear as offshore company directors, shareholders, and most of the time, both director and shareholder. So we had 195 unidentified Koreans to begin with, and we had to figure out who they were. So you can see an example of a document in the data. It's a register of directors for a BVI company named Watermark Capital, and you can see that Mr. Seo Young-bae is a director here, and he provided his residential address in Korea. So for the addresses we had, we searched property register in Korea to see if the person who set up the offshore companies was the landlord. On the property register in South Korea, you can check the name and birth date of the landlord. So if the person who set up the offshore company was the landlord, then we could figure out the person's birth date, and which helped us identify who the person was. Or sometimes, as you can see, when we are lucky, we could find the ID such as a passport copy or identification card in the data. And after we identified the person, we had to decide if the person was a story of public interest. We had to research if there were any suspicious circumstances related to the incorporation of shell companies. So we went through corporate financial documents and court records and etc. to find for what purposes the person set up the shell companies. So after all this process, we found Roh Jae-hyun. He is a son of former President Roh Tae-woo, and we also found a brother and sister of Seo Young-bae, who is the chairman of the cosmetic giant Amulet Pacific. Seo Young-bae is the second richest man in South Korea after Samsung's Lee Gun-hee. And the third person you see here is Park Byung-ryung. He is the CEO of South Korea's largest casino operator, Paradise. I'd like to talk about Roh Jae-hyun's case, Mr. Roh. He was difficult to find because he did not provide his address in Korea nor his ID. He lived and worked in Hong Kong, so he provided his address in Hong Kong and his identification card in Hong Kong. So he was not included in the list of Koreans I found by the search term Korea when I first did it. I found him later when I made a search by common words used in Korean names. In this case, Jae in the middle of Roh Jae-hyun's name. You probably know that Mr. Roh Jae-hyun's father, the former President Roh Tae-woo, he was convicted of bribery charges in 1997, and he was ordered to return to the state some $230 million he had illegally accumulated when he was in office from 1988 to 1993. I found 3 shell companies. You can see the pictures here. I found 3 shell companies set up by Roh Jae-hyun in the British Virgin Islands in 2012, and I suspected that he might have used them to hide the illegal wealth he might have inherited from his father. When we contacted Roh Jae-hyun, he admitted that he set up the BVI companies for potential business purposes in the future, but he claimed that he had never used them. But I searched Hong Kong's corporate registry because Roh Jae-hyun lived there and worked in Hong Kong, and I found that he was linked to 7 other shell companies set up in Hong Kong, and he used his BVI companies to own the shell companies in Hong Kong. So it's a very complicated structure, and Roh Jae-hyun did this for and Roh Jae-hyun's Hong Kong companies, well, his shell companies in Hong Kong, were related to a South Korean mobile business company named Incros, and Roh Jae-hyun was a co-founder of that company, and he was a major shareholder. So we can only guess that Roh Jae-hyun did all this has something to do with the shares in his Korean company, but we cannot be sure for sure because he does not give us answers, but we can only sure that he lied to us about his shell companies. Like Mr. Roh Jae-hyun, many people lied or refused to answer when we gave them questions about their shell companies, or they just simply denied that they set up the shell companies even though we have proof. I'd like to show you a short clip of what often happened when we persistently try to get comment from the people in the data.
유스타파는 국제 컨택과 유출자를 위해서 박 씨를 또 발견하고 그를 다시 찾아갔습니다.
Is that you?
Yeah. As you can see from the video, he got really mad, and he was not the only one. Everyone was kind of reacting like that. So it was hard to find why they set up the companies because they didn't give us answers. Well, another big difficulty we had was secrecy in the government. Whenever I asked the National Tax Service whether the people in the data ever reported about their shell companies or foreign accounts related to them, they did not. They only said that they could not share the information with us because it's taxpayers' information and it should be protected. So it was hard to cross-check if the person in the data was telling the truth because we could not confirm it. And impact of the stories are, after our stories were published, tax authorities said that they will investigate the people named in the Panama Papers. When we did the official list stories in 2013, after our stories were published, the National Tax Service collected over 130 billion won, which is $109 million from the people in the data after their investigation. So this time we will have to wait and see how the investigation will go. Thank you.
In ICIJ's this project, let's say, message board, digital message board was bombarded by some colleagues' notes, postings like, oh, in our country, the government moved they required us to come forward with actual Panama Papers, but we have not contacted with Japanese tax authorities, nor our colleagues at ICIJ. I just wonder what they are doing right now. Actually, this is completely off the record. Anyway, there is no official move from the Japanese government. Sorry, it is very. This is what we did to analyze Panama Papers about the second private security company. So, sorry, it is very vague. This is the actual company founded in Tokyo, and it holds a large number of stocks, shares of Second. It is evaluated at the time, 20 years ago, almost $700 million. And this Tokyo company, it is a paper company actually, but was possessed by a British Virgin Island company. It was found in Panama Papers. And it was held by two different British Virgin Island companies. And one was finally held by one second founder. And other is held by another Guernsey entity, and then held by Tokyo company, which is related to a founder's family. And these two structures have related with trust each other. You are nodding. Okay. Do you understand this? Very complicated. I know. It took really long time for me to understand why they did this, what they wanted this. So I wrote some notes for my colleagues in Japanese, sorry, but something like that. Okay, this is the actual structure. This is the guy. His close relation, a person with his close relation had a company in British Virgin Island, which was found in Panama Papers. This chart is online at the website of U.S. Department of Treasury. Fortunately, we were not bounced back by him or his people like her. It was very legendary. At first, when I knocked the door, so some very young people came out and what is doing. But then his secretary came out and he's now doing something else, and we can take their questions, even though we do not know he has the intention to reply to you, and he didn't reply. Oh, sorry. So that is what we did during this investigation of Panama Papers. Thank you.
So I thought we could got involved in this, and from your perspective, what are the challenges of this sort of collaboration model with many different media organizations?
Yeah, sure. So I worked with the ICIJ in 2010. I was an intern there, and I worked with them on 2 different investigations. And so I kept in touch. And last year I was at the IRE conference, the Investigative Reporters and Editors Conference in Philadelphia. And I just met with Marina, who's the deputy of the ICIJ. And she said that they were working on a new interesting project. And they weren't sure whether there were interesting information about Japan, but they were interested in funding it out. And so they asked me to check, and that's how I got involved. Was July, I think. And so, well, I mean, for me it was a new world, right? Because as they have explained, the ICIJ set up this kind of like Facebook-like system where everyone can talk to each other and upload their findings, and it's all secure. And also when I started, it was in July, and it was only the first part of the data that had been uploaded onto their database. It was not complete. I think the most complete version was in March, I guess. The last part of the data was uploaded in March. So at the beginning, you would search for, like, I don't know, keywords like Japan or Tokyo, whatever, and then you couldn't find anything, or you could find some bits of information, but not really a story. And for example, for the Japanese case, an issue at times that we had is that it was basically all in English, and Japanese names have ideograms, and so at the beginning you had 400 people who could be 1,000 different people or maybe more. You don't really know unless you see the date of birth and the character. You don't really know if it's the same with the same name, the person with the same name, or who that is. So I think that was, fact checking for us was still the biggest challenge.
Did you have a lot of names where you could not, it looked like it was somebody well known, but you could never confirm because you didn't get the date of birth?
Not. I mean, we're still going through the data, right? So, for example, in one case, there was a person whose name sounded like the finance minister, and when I saw it, I was like, whoa! And then I was born 30 years after the minister, so okay, this is another guy, I think eventually, even if you don't have a passport or anything in the data, you can always go to that person and ask if that's the case. But the collaboration was great. I mean,
You said there was like a Facebook type system where people could communicate with each other around the world. Did that ever result in like one team in one part of the world finding leads for another team and just sort of saying you should look at this, or we found this by accident?
Yeah, it does happen. In fact, months ago, I don't remember which team, but they were they found a story that was related to Iran and to Petrobras, which is an oil company related to Iran, and the Guardian published a story about that. And Petrobras was also involved in the Japanese company, so they, even if they weren't sure what this Japanese company was, they posted it, so we could follow up. So we are actually working on the story.
What kind of ground rules do media organizations have to agree to sort of be part of the project?
Well, you have to respect the embargo. You can't scoop anyone. For example, I think in South America, there was someone who was interested in publishing stories about Argentina, but obviously they couldn't do that because they had agreed, to wait in order to have bigger impact. And also the idea of keeping it confidential. But yeah.
What about like if you find something, aren't you required or obligated to share it with everybody? You can't sort of keep it as your own exclusive?
I don't think it's an obligation. It's more like an ethical thing, right? You're working on the same project. You're basically colleagues and like teammates. So why wouldn't you? Especially because everyone is assigned to country. So, like in our case, for example, I work with
Sawa-san and Okuyama-san, so they are two different news organizations, and obviously they are rivals on a daily basis. But this was a common goal, and each of them had a different perspective and way of covering the issue. So, I think in this case the scoop was really not the, or at least, scooping each other wasn't really the ultimate goal, I guess.
So when you found something, you would share it with your competitor?
Sure. It is very unusual for us to share something with, say, colleagues from different company, different news organization, but it's something like a pool.
Like a pool.
Like a pool, yes. Yeah. So we share, personally, the colleague from the Asahi Shimbun, which is another organization participating in this project from Japan, the leading newspaper in Japan, Okuyama-san, he has been my friend for decades actually. So we could communicate each other very, very frankly. We had a phone call several times a day in the peak time. What do you think of this? Are you publishing this today or tomorrow? Or we're really frank, really open about that. So, okay, we have very enormous pressure on that, so perhaps we should do that today. Then he reacts like, okay, we will do that today.
And do you have to show each other the stories before, or?
Sometimes. It is not an obligation, and sometimes it may trouble, but sometimes we do very personally, and we did very personally, and sometimes we did with team basis. So, basically we did.
I have one more question about Japan. You mentioned that you thought a lot of the material may not have been in the Panama Papers because it was in the Caymans or in another place. What is your sense, though, in general? Is this a widespread problem in Japan of money being held in offshore, hidden in offshore accounts?
Generally, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Of course, as a matter of the entities or institution, financial institutions, they utilize offshore financial centers, of course, heavily as the position of the location of the funds. It is a very, very big part in Japanese financial flow. The Cayman, the second biggest one, the Gulf overseas, the place to see financial in some category. But I have no idea. Individually, they are doing that.
In the SICOM case that you mentioned, when you were searching for records related to Japan, you said, for example, you entered in all the politicians' names to see if anything came up. How did you decide which sort of corporate figures to sort of search for? Is that how you found the SICOM?
No, perhaps it was helped by her. She could find. How did you find?
We searched for Japan, and PPP is a politically exposed person.
So that was a phrase that the law firm used.
Yes, we knew the code. We knew that they would use this code for more interesting people.
Right.
And so, as with Google, you have the quotations and then we did that, and then I don't remember, hundreds of results came up, and we went through each of them, and and then we Googled each name, or we tried to find that name. And these second founders came up. And the interesting thing was that we had 700-page records on this. So it was great, even though it was not PDF, so you couldn't search in the document itself, and you had to go through all 700 pages. You had the whole history of how they had set up a paper company in Japan, and then in Guernsey, and then in the British Virgin Islands. And it was so from the 1992 up to 2010 or 12.
Yeah, perhaps.
So when they dissolved the company. So, that was
Yeah,
funny.
well,
Sometimes it's luck.
Yeah.
You would just print out all 700 pages then?
I didn't kill any tree, but yeah.
It was tough. It was a double challenge for me because first, A, this is the second language. B, it was written in the financial, very complicated, let's say, structure and jargons. It is tough. It was tough to understand, even if it was written in Japanese.
Do you have to hire lawyers or anything at all? Or you just work on this on your own?
Actually, not. But of course, it is on legwork. We had an interview with a bunch of experts talking about and asking about this. What it means? What this trust means? What's the merit? What's the point to do this?
How about you? You've done this process similar when you searched for names? You searched for Korea first. You
Yes.
said you found, what was it, like 16,000 or something?
Yes, when I searched for Korea, I got over 16,000 search results.
So you can't read them all, right? It'll take forever.
Yeah, but we had to go through all the files because we were not sure what was in there. So we tried to find Koreans that have Korean addresses. So we had to, eventually we went to all of them to see.
You did go through all of them.
Yeah.
So must have taken forever.
It took a few months, and then we got a list of 195 Koreans that have Korean addresses. So we started digging them.
That's good. In your reporting on this project, what did you find most surprising? I mean, because you'd already been involved in the offshore leaks project. You knew a little bit already about how this works.
Yes. Well, the surprising thing for me was that after we did the offshore leaks, that still so many people were using tax havens, even though we did stories and we did there were like investigations, but still people were finding more complex ways to hide their money. So I found that was very surprising. I mean, why so many people are using tax havens and why they are so popular? So that was.
Were there other Korean media involved, or you had to collaborate with, or you were by yourself?
Luckily, we are the only one involved in the Panama Papers, so we didn't have any experience like that.
And you worked with other international, other media outlets around the world.
Yes. Well, mostly other media organizations in the world are interested in North Korea. So when we found something, we shared with them. So that was the case.
And was there anything interesting on North Korea that came out?
We found an official. We found someone who was on the U.S. Treasury sanction list in a bank. So that was the case.
They don't.
Yeah, they don't.
One of the things I found frustrating about these stories were that we could find these offshore entities, we can associate them with individuals, but at the next step of reporting, to try to figure out what they were doing with these entities seems very challenging. How do you sort of break through so you can actually tell a story about what they're doing with it?
Actually, it is. I can't say we successfully we've done that because most of the Panama Papers are about registration and that's it. So the second case is very exceptional because we had the evidence of actual, substantial behavior or action, the financial action of them. But most things we had to stop short of doing that. Just there is a registration of this kind of offshore entity and that's it.
Eugene?
Well, that's why we had to do lots of research. So we had to figure out, we had to guess why they set up the shell companies. So we went through like a company records and court rulings and to see if they did anything suspicious during the time that they incorporated the shell companies. So
what's an example of something suspicious that you would look for?
Well, for example, like Mr. Ro Jae-han, he's a son of former president, and his father has slush funds, and people were suspecting that he inherited his father's wealth, but we don't know where the the money went. So we were suspecting that he might have used them to hide the money. And Nojea was having a divorce when he set up the shell companies. He was having a divorce in Hong Kong. So so they were fighting over the asset division. So we were guessing that he might have used them for that kind of purpose, or whatever. But later it turned out that he used his shell companies for his mobile business company in South Korea.
So how important in both, beyond South Korea and Japan, how important is it to find sort of human sources to sort of help explain what's going on in these companies? Do you ever have any luck getting like an insider for one of these companies to sort of explain, yeah, we were using that, and they were using that to steal, essentially, or to evade taxes?
We didn't have anyone admitting to any wrongdoing. In one case that we reported on, there was this Japanese guy, like completely unknown, that had between 2006 I think and 2007 he had basically had been accused of defrauding dozens of Japanese, and so he. I think that totally was about $3 million or something.
$3 million, yeah.
Yeah. So, we had court records saying that basically because the court had ordered him to pay back the victims. And then we found a shell company set up by him. Mm-hmm. Although, you can only say this happened in 2009 and this happened in 2011, but you can't say he's using that money to set up the company. You can't make that connection unless you have a proof of that. And they talked to the person, but it was off the record.
It was not off the record, but he denied he denied wrongdoing anything. He admitted he established that company, but he denied any wrongdoing. He declined to be named, and he gave us this interview under the strong condition of the anonymity. This is really, really frequently happened in Japan, and we're somehow tangled by this requirement. So that's very this is another story about it.
So because the guy had agreed to talk to them, but on condition of anonymity, when I and another colleague of mine wrote the story, we did mention him, and then we tried to call ourselves, and he responded. He picked up the phone, but he didn't want to answer. So we could not include the answer that he had given to them, right? And then so it was like he declined to comment, or I don't remember what we said. But the human element, especially in business stories where they can be very dry and not very interesting. Taxes are not super sexy. Mm-hmm. you always want a human element, but it's also challenging to find someone who says, oh yes, I want to avoid taxes, or I want to evade taxes.
But like I think. A lot of people, young reporters, I think, who start down this type of reporting and they're looking at documents, it's very hard sometimes to interpret those documents. Yeah. And you almost want to find like a guide, like a guru, who can say, oh yeah, this is clearly, this is what they're trying to do here. Yeah. I mean, how do you find people like that who can help you?
In some cases, of course, the case is the people in Panama paper themselves. They have a kind of background story themselves. But perhaps like the founder of this big company. But at the same time, some people can tell, apart from Panama papers, what the offshore entities are like and why they need this, or sometimes we can do the exploration. What if you want to establish offshore entities and knock on the doors of this kind of office and attorneys who helps us establish this kind of entities, and it's very easy. You can use something like that. So yes, I agree that we need a human element to make colorful stories from this kind of very dusty data set. But At the same time, in Japan, it's extremely difficult. People are very hesitant to speak out.
Right.
And one correction, it was not under, the interview was under the condition of anonymity. We are told by,
Eugene, do you have any luck finding human guides or sources for this material?
Well, we were trying to, we did get help from experts working at the law firm.
You did?
Yes, for accountants. But the thing is, when we try to get experts from big law firms in South Korea, interestingly, they said that there might be conflict of interest because they were involved in some cases. It was hard to find experts, but we were lucky in some way.
And is there a confidentiality issue? Were you nervous when you showed materials to experts?
We showed them the documents, but we did not give them. So that way we just met them and then talked about this, and then we just kept our documents.
And they can be helpful.
Yes.
Any luck getting anybody involved in any companies to sort of become whistleblowers in this process?
Not really, because no one really likes to talk about how they avoided taxing issues, so it was hard to get very honest stories.
And how about the authorities? Is that a potential source for?
authorities?
Yeah.
No.
No? Oh yeah.
In our cases, perhaps some of my colleagues in the tax beat, tax authority beat, might have helped in some cases. Perhaps Asahi Shimbun, another company, another newspaper from Japan participating in this project might be helped by tax beat reporter, but he has some knowledge on this. But in my case, in Kyodo's case, no, it was not helped by this kind of authority.
Okay. Let's open up to questions.
No, just one thing.
Oh yeah, sure.
The relations between Yakuza and this company, front company, it was not public document. So we had to endorse the relations, verify this relation by the quote of source from the police.
Right.
That is the only one I think.
Off the record or on background.
Background,
Yeah.
yes.
No.
Yes, please.
We got a lot of questions. Let's start here.
Yeah. My name is Young Chul Yoon, and I'm teaching journalism here in Seoul. And my question is posed to you, Philip, working for New York Times. My understanding is the New York Times was less enthusiastic in reporting that project in the initial stage of disclosures. Am I right?
We were not actually ever asked to be involved in the Panama Papers, so it's not an issue of us being less enthusiastic. The earlier offshore leaks project in 2013, the New York Times was approached by ICIJ, and there was a discussion and a negotiation, and at the time the Times decided not to participate in it because the editors at the time felt that the ground rules were too onerous.
Yeah. My understanding was it was not front page stories.
When it was reported, that was
I'm just wondering why was it so? Because so many other, worldwide international news organizations, most of them was front page stories.
Yeah, it's difficult. We did eventually put stories about this on the front page. On the first day that it broke, it was on a Sunday. There were not a lot of people in the newsroom, and it was impossible for the New York Times to sort of confirm everything that was being reported. So I do think we underplayed it that first day. Part of it was institutional, bureaucratic, the way the newsroom is set up. Part of it is that it just came as a surprise to many people, and we weren't sure, this was the kind of thing that we needed to decide, what the newsworthiness of it was and how to cover it. Eventually, I think we came to grips with it and put a lot of reporters on it.
This is a question to you all. I'm Bobby from Hong Kong. I'm a freelance journalist. And after the Panama paper came out, some of my sources in Hong Kong from the US where they're engaging a lot of business in China have actually told me this is something everyone knows about, especially about the elites and entrepreneurs. They accept that it exists. And kind of tell me like you'll see how it will eventually fade out, and in Asia people accept that's how it works. So my question is that you guys in the front line of investigating these papers, but how do the macro perspective of sustaining the impact of all those secrecy that's revealed and actually engage the public to care as the long run instead of accepting it as just another corrupted story of elites in society? And I think as a young journalist it frustrates me because I would like to find ideas of how to put a human touch in it so people will care, but I find it frustrating how to manage and strategically work with all journalists to make this happen. So I want to hear what you guys have on ideas.
Is that a challenge, sort of getting readers to care about an issue like this?
Sure, it is because, but it is not specifically on this story. If news goes fast in any cases, so we're really keen to keep the speed of the stories and may keep it in public. But we do not have the, let's say, unlimited resource to story. So the one thing we found useful, found good to keep public interested in this and keep the public debate more is reporting this matter discussed in more higher governmental levels to change the system itself, namely the OECD's or in the G20, the Financial Ministers Summit, and followed by the G7 Summit right now.
Yeah.
So people are now thinking it is not just a matter of the individual wrongdoing, but the matter of the system itself, the institutional, let's say, crack. So I think
We'll take one more question. We're going to be running out of time.
Were Mossack Fonseca and their clients aware they were being investigated all this time?
Sorry, yeah.
Were Mossack Fonseca and their clients aware they were being investigated all this time? And did they try and stop you if they did?
I don't believe so. Actually, I believe they hadn't, because that is the most essential thing which are obliged to the members that. So we are prohibited to, to give a hint to them to what we are doing until the actual, not embargo, but the inquiry letter.
So all the calls and everything came after.
All right, we're out of time. If you guys have other questions, feel free to come up to these guys outside in the hallway afterwards. I think they'll be happy to discuss their experience.